afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. Hope everybody is having a phenomenal week. And you're ready to dive into the charts and see what they have to offer for the day. So without further ado, please turn off all distractions, grab a pen and paper for notes, and let's make sure that we continue to participate and engage. All right. So today we're going to continue down this track of going through the pairs, seeing what we have. We're going to look at dollar pairs today, understanding that the Fed has been speaking all week at the forum in Europe, and we want to see where the dollar pairs are, go through those, make sure our charts are up to date as we get prepared to wrap up the week and see what could be happening throughout the next couple of weeks. So let's dive in. We'll hop over to Trading Economics, see what's happening there. And real quick, drop me one in the chat if you can hear me okay and if you can see my screen. Yesterday we had some technical difficulties. Cool. Appreciate you. All right. So like I said, Fed been speaking at the forum in Europe all week, along with the ECB, along with the Bank of England and Bank of Japan. Top central banks set to hike rates further. Strong majority of policymakers expect 2 or more rate hikes by the end of the year as the process of getting inflation back down to 2% has a long way to go. Fed Chair Powell reiterated to the Banco de España conference, reinforcing messages from previous days. Yesterday, BOE Governor Bailey and ECB President Lagarde both said they expect further tightening measures to cool down inflation. Right? Investors have been waiting to see what they said, and they doubled down on what they said. Right? More rate hikes to come. Okay? More rate hikes to come. Now here, we've been talking about the yen. Japanese yen depreciated to 144 per dollar for the first time since early November, approaching a key 145 level that pushed Japanese authorities to intervene in the currency markets in September and October of last year. Country's top currency officials have already started warning against sharp yen falls. We saw that last week. Or the week before, saying that they're monitoring the markets closely and will respond appropriately if moves become excessive. The yen weakened as the Bank of Japan Governor Kazuo Yuda reiterated there's still more distance to go in sustainably achieving a 2% inflation accompanied by sufficient wage growth. Right? It's kind of a different narrative than that's coming out of the other central banks. This stands in sharp contrast to other major central banks, with the Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, and Bank of England all signaling for further rate hikes this year. Right? So Bank of Japan is in a different situation, right? 145 we talked about yesterday, the higher 140s, potentially 150 being key levels for intervention, but the Bank of Japan looking at things a little differently, and he hints at that here, right? So difference in opinion there, right? But dollar, euro, pound are looking for further hikes, okay? So that's something that we have to know and we have to pay attention to. I'm gonna go over here, scroll down a bit. There's another article going a little bit more in depth. Here we go. Strong majority of policymakers. That was the beginning of that article. Fed has raised policy rates by 5%, or percentage points. Although the effects of policy tightening on demand can be seen in its most in the most interest rate sensitive sectors of the economy, particularly housing and investment. It will take time for the full effects of monetary restraint to be realized, especially on inflation. The Fed left the target rate 5 to 5.25 in June, but signal rates may go to 5.6% by year end if the economy and inflation don't slow down more. After the FOMC decision, Fed Chair Powell reinforced several times the need to raise rates further this year. In the ECB forum, Powell said he wouldn't take consecutive meeting rate hikes off the table. All right, so a little bit more detail regarding what he stated, but he said what folks were looking for. All right, so that's it from an article perspective. Over to the calendar. If we can get there. All right. Those were the statements. Not a ton of data from yesterday. Crude oil inventories came in way above expectation here. Decreased by 9.6 million barrels. Fed Chair Powell also spoke again this morning. Stated that the banking sector is healthy. The words that he chose. So that was the primary portion that was noted there. Later on in the day, we have final GDP quarter over quarter for the dollar, unemployment claims for the dollar, manufacturing PMI coming out of China. And then tomorrow we have GDP for Canada, core PCE for the dollar, right? So not a ton of data, but a ton of folks coming to the microphone this week. And now we just got to see how the market opens, how investors take the words and what the sentiment is. All right. So that's it from a fundamental perspective. Have you guys seen anything that caught your eye? Or do you have any questions regarding what we just discussed? No? Gotcha. Perfect. All right. Sweet. So on to the dollar. So yesterday on the dollar, we were watching this level, right? 12,884. Strong break, right? Going into that 1 o'clock time frame where Powell came to the microphone and some other folks. Boom. Broke the level. Now we're looking for a retest and continuation. Right? Now looking for a retest continuation to the upside on the dollar. Right? We broke that key level. Right? It was 1, 2. This is the third time approaching. We broke it. Now let's see if we get a retest for that level to hold as support and see that thing continue to the upside. Next level, 12,994. All right. Look at a potential double top here if we don't break that level as well. All right. So the dollar is on the rise, right? Makes sense. Inflation continuing to the upside. That makes sense for us, right? So that's where we are on the DXY, pushing long. Okay. Pushing long. We're getting a pullback now. So on the dollar pairs, we can expect retracements, and then we'll look for continuations. Okay. So since we're talking yens, let's come here to the dollar yen, right? And we pushed further up into the zone, and we talked about the potential of this 145.084 level being one for us to watch, right? And we got a whole zone marked out here, but we'll look for another push to the upside after this retracement on the dollar. So I wouldn't, let me go back. I wouldn't expect for this yen to fall a lot further, understanding where the Bank of Japan is and where the dollar is. Okay, at least yet, right? So let's go back to the daily time frame here, and we'll look at a broader view to understand where we are in this process that we talked about yesterday, right? So we looked at this zone, previous support here back in October, right? Where price broke out of that area. They talked about price approaching these levels where Bank of Japan intervened. This is where that was. And we saw that sharp move to the downside. So we're approaching that level again now. And this is what the article is talking about, right? However, we have this zone. We have a daily resistance level at 148,857 that we could potentially get to, understanding that the Bank of Japan may not actually look to intervene until we get to some of these higher 140s, right? So we'll continue to watch this, right? If we get some signs on the lower time frame, we'll get back there, we'll drop the cloud on of a break of the cloud, then we can look at that potential reversal. But you see, we haven't had anything. Price just been sliding to the upside here, right? Just sliding to the upside. And if we run a trend line off the low, right? Not cutting off any wicks or bodies. Boom. Okay. And then we'll run an inner trend line here. Boom. Okay. And then we got one more to come off this last touch to the upside. Bang. Right. And you see price has just been sliding along, right? Just sliding along, which is cool. We understand why now, right? And so we can sit and watch. And you see that 4-hour D extension right there at that 144, 900, close to that 145 level. Okay. So we'll continue to watch this, continue to trickle its way up, and we'll see what happens when we get here. If we pop to the upside to get to 146, 147, or do we get there and stall and then give a nice break of the trend line and see that reaction at that level? All right. But this is a break and a retest scenario also that we want to kind of just keep in mind, right? Yes, we could push higher into that zone, which we may, but right, break, retest. It's a long way to do it, but that's what it's doing, right? And you got other support levels here as well that could also be retested. So that's the 4-hour look on the yen, right? That 80-20 on the 4 not gonna play out. Okay, so that's why I said not looking for a sharp retracement here on the lower time frame for that reason. All right, so we got the trend lines running there. We'll drop the cloud on here, and we'll look at it from this perspective, and we see, right, that pullback could just come and retest that trend line and retest the cloud, and then continue the bounce that it's been doing. Just been bouncing off the cloud, bouncing off the cloud. We could get another bounce and then that push to the upside, right? Saying the DXY is pulling back, right? And then that pullback, this is what we could see here, okay? So that's the dollar yen. Questions here? Nope. Okay, cool deal. All right, cool deal. So let's take a look at the dollar CAD. It was at 80-20 from last week, right? Shallow retracement, 118, 127 zone, right? Monday and Tuesday, boom, we got the trend line break, pushing long, right? Pushing long. Just shy of that 382 level right now, but we'll look for a pullback and then a continuation long, right? That's on the 1 hour. So let's go back to the daily and walk this through. Have some levels to update as well. Let's see. Cloud off. Clean this up a little bit. All right, here we go. Okay. Whoops. There we go, right? So these were support levels that we broke through coming down. Actually, let's do this. Let's go back to the weekly here. We're going to clear this, clean a lot of this out and reset it. Because we broke those levels, right? We broke these support levels. Boom, run into the downside. So we're going to take these out. Broken, broken, broken. Leave that broken. That level got broken as well. Boom. So got a little clarity here, right? Next support level is here. On the weekly time frame, 129, 526, right? But just shy of a 618 retracement as well. Okay. Just shy of a 618 retracement off this fib running there. Let me run this off the low. Boom. That's better. 50% retracement here, right? Trying to turn over. We'll see if we do and start pushing to the upside here. Okay. We saw the 80-20 get us started, right? We could see decision. We'll see how the week closes to see if we get a full decisive candle to the upside, give us that morning star pattern here potentially, right? But 50% retracement off the weekly time frame, trying to turn over. All right. We know, again, Bank of Canada could also be in a different situation, seeing as things are starting to shift from a data perspective in Canada. So they could move back to a pause in the future if things stay consistent over the next few weeks for them, right? So looking at price pushing to the upside here. Okay. So now as we come back to the daily time frame, we'll add in these daily levels and we'll run that fib off the low again. But that next support level, right? Those got broken. So we have at the close of today, if this candle stays bullish or above, right? This could be our next support level here, right? So we'll mark that. We'll put that in temporarily. And if it gets broken, we'll just change it. But there's that daily support level. Okay. There's that support level. And if you zoom back and look, right, prices came to that level multiple times, right? That support and resistance. So it's holding now, trying to create a low, pushing to the upside here. Okay. So if we run that fib off of this level, there we go. Right. We got the 618 retracement in line with that daily support, right? Benny broke this down over the weekend, right? And on Tuesday, boom, right? Pushing to the upside here. Okay, so what we could be in for potentially is a pullback and then a continuation, right? 618 retracement, dollar strength. We could be looking at this being ready to turn over and make its way to the upside. Yeah, maybe we break this and push a little lower, right? But this level could be a support for us that holds, right? So we'll continue to watch that, monitor that as we move through the next couple weeks. All right. So coming down to the 4 now. Let's see where we are from a fib perspective. Boom. And it gets choppy, right? So with that, we're going to come off the highs and come down. And we're going to end with a down fib at the end. Boom. Whoops. Missed it. There we go. There we go. Right. So here on the 4, this is our capital fib here, and we're pushing long. All right. Pushing long. We're at a 618 retracement, but we know we have dollar strength. So this fib could ultimately get taken out with this move to the upside. So what we want to look for, which we may end up getting, crown pattern. Right? So we'll look for a pullback to come here throughout the day, maybe even tomorrow, pull back down as that dollar retraces, and then we'll look for that move to the upside and that continuation. Okay, so what that means is on the 1, right, the 80-20 scenario is playing out, right? There's an 80-20 there, boom. Now if we run the sub fib to the upside just to see what things are here. I didn't mean to do that. Take that. Maybe. Let me refresh this. All right. There we go. Okay. Zoom out. Here we go. All right. My bad. So we'll look to run the fib off the low. There, that's our sub fib, right? And here's the 80-20 scenario off of this sub fib running to the upside. All right. We'll go back and we'll look at that crown pattern. But 80-20 scenario, let's look for this retracement here for a low price. Right? If you're not in this move to the upside already, this pullback could give you an opportunity for an entry, and we're looking for this to continue moving to the upside. All right? So we'll look for action like that. Okay? And we'll look for the pullback to come down into our sweet spot. And then we'll look long. Okay. And that will give us that crown formation like this. Whoops. Let me try this again. And then I'll run the harmonic fib off of this, but boom. Yeah, Benit, it is off. It is off. We'll run the harmonic fib off of that. But looking at something like that, right? Yep, that fib should be up at the high here, right? So that'd give us a B boundary move. But ultimately, that's the movement that we're looking for, right? So if we take those off and just run the manual fib off the harmonic pattern, boom, right? That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. Okay. So that's where you're on the dollar CAD. The 80-20 playing out beautifully there. Beautiful move off the low. Already up 153 pips. Potential, right? Taking out that A. That next D extension will be 260 off the low. Right? So wait on the pullback if you're not in it. Wait for that low price, and then we'll get long. like this. Okay, and we could be in for, as we saw in the higher time frame, could be in for a larger move, but we'll start here. All right, if we're not in this already. Okay, so that's what we're looking at on the dollar CAD. All right, pullback, continuation. Questions here? No? Sweet. All right, already been a beautiful move. Got some more opportunity to go. Okay, so that is the dollar Canada. Let's see here. Dollar Swiss. We'll also zoom out daily. So we're trying to turn over, right? We just broke this previous daily level, right? What was support there? Broke it. Now this is a resistance level here, right? And we're just hovering sideways right now on this dollar Swiss. Okay, this one will be interesting to see. With both of these, as they could serve as safe havens, right? So just hovering sideways right now on the daily time frame. Let's zoom back and see if there's anything larger. Just to make sure nothing else is here. Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah, no. We're good. All right, so daily time frame, that's where we're sitting, right? That's the sideways push. So we'll see if we're able to break back above this 90-124 level, right? To get back long and give us a deeper retracement here, right? If we get some dollar strength happening, or more dollar strength happening. So we'll see what transpires. But through yesterday, right, it's just been sideways. Just been sideways. So not a ton there on the daily down to the 4. We'll come back to the high, run the fib down. That's where we are on the 4, right? This was also an 80-20 scenario beginning of May. Push up 382, came back down. Now we want to see, do we create another low here, and do we get this to swing to the upside to give us a longer run move to the upside here? Okay, so that's what I'm looking for here to see if this bottom finishes out and see if we get a break of this level at 91.24. Okay, so that's going to be the key level to watch there. Coming down to the 1, we'll come back. And this is our capital fib on the 1 hour, right? Large, broad move. We did push up, get to that 382. Now we're coming back down. So again, looking for a break there, right? So that's the larger fib there. Can't fully get it in the screen, but this is what we're looking for. Break of 90-124. If we're able to get that, then that could give us a break and retest, long signal to push to the upside there. Right. So we'll see what happens with the Swiss as we move forward and see which one of these serve as the more dominant safe haven currency if we get that safe haven push in the future. Right. So that's going to be the level for us to watch there. Okay. So that's the Swiss dollar Swiss. Any questions on this one?
Can you for the investing.com, the summary that's there, is it updated just for like a daily thing, or it's mostly like on a weekly?
Investing.com. I think that's done. Let's see. Let's take a look at it. Not that one. Technical summary. Talking about here.
Yeah, when you look at
This one updates as things shift, right? So you got your different time frames there. Dollar Swiss giving strong sell right now, which right technically makes sense because it's been pushing to the downside, right? It's been down for a while, but now it's consolidating. So that strong sell makes sense based on what's been happening. Um, so we'll see if that starts to shift at any point. Yeah, but that changes as the market shifts and as the market changes.
okay, thanks.
Yep. Right. So down, there's a pullback, then more down, right? Still trying to push down here in the short term. So, but in this consolidation, and that's why I think it was just before you hopped on, I'm looking to see if this low finishes out, right? And if this does stay a low and if we turn over and break this level. So that's why I have this level 91.24 marked out there. If we get a break of that, then we could be looking for upside movement, and ultimately that could then start to shift this from a strong sell to more buy if the dollar does pick up the strength and serves as the safe haven out of this scenario here.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So that's the dollar Swiss, dollar yen, dollar CAD, dollar Swiss.
Ryan, do you use the words consolidating and ranging interchangeably?
Yes.
Like, okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep. Just means a sideways movement in the market. Both those mean the same.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have a question, right?
Yep.
With since we're having news, right? I'm trying to look to see if on the lower time frames, let's say you're seeing more high highs, right?
Mm-hmm.
As price as we get to the news level, do you follow what the lower time frame says in terms of if price is showing you lower lows or higher highs? How do you kind of like gauge? I mean, I know this wouldn't be like an entry where we would get in because it didn't meet our rules, but
Right. So what I look in a scenario like this and adding in any potential news that could impact, this is legit what I'd be waiting for, right? To see if the news pushed price above this level and then see if I get a pullback for that level to hold.
okay.
Right. So what's the reaction after the news is announced, be it a press conference, data, what have you, right? Does it push price above the key level that I'm watching? Right. So I'd wait for this reaction and then I'd wait for a pullback and look for that entry here for that long on a break and retest scenario there. Right. Because if you, as we come back, right, on the 4, that fib looks similar, right? But you're sitting around a B boundary zone, right? And this was an 80-20 scenario that pushed at 382. And then on the daily, we're sitting at, take these out. On the daily, right? We just wicked the 382 there off the high, but we're sitting at this B boundary, right? And as we're looking at this on the higher time frames, this is what caught my eye to say, okay, let's see if this forms a low and we get a swing to the upside, right? So if there's news that comes out, GDP data that moves the market, or another press conference or what have you, right? Does it push price above that level and give us a break and retest opportunity? Or conversely, right? Does it push price lower, break this level of support here, and give you a break and retest scenario like that, right? And in this scenario, then I'd be looking for price to come to this 87 592 and then look to see if that level holds before move back to the upside. right? Because this is a monthly key level here, right? That we haven't seen since 2020, 2021, right? So that's what I'd be looking for if we broke down to the downside. I've been watching this level and then look to see if we get a shift, right? Or this level, break, retest, looking for a continuation long. That makes sense?
Yeah. That's where you have to have patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Not anticipating the news, but looking to see what happens after that news is announced. Right. And really the only time that I take trades immediate or before news is announced is if price is in my sweet spot, right? If price push into this 118, 127 zone, and I'm looking to swing it anyway. So if my rules are met and price shallow retracement pushes into that zone, I'm going to pull the trigger, place a stop outside the D extension, and allow price to do what it's going to do with the news and everything else that happens. Right. But I'm not taking trades immediately before the news just because it goes either way. But if price moves into my sweet spot the morning before something happens in the afternoon or the day before something happens in the afternoon, I will place a trade if it pushes it into my sweet spot. Right. If price is in my zone, I'm going to pull the trigger. Right. But I won't trade anticipating the news. I'm literally looking, are my rules met? Yes or no? Right. Yeah, no, I kind of appreciate that, Joy. Really forcing people not to, because that's where major news announcements is where the majority of accounts are blown. So people get caught up trying to anticipate all that, and they get messed up because they don't have a consistent process that they're following. They're just trying to guess. You know what I mean? So I appreciate brokers that say, "Hey, no trading at the news." Trying to curb some of that.
I think what's tricky for me now is that, well, when you're looking at the dollar, then the dollar, the bias is to the upside, but then right now we're having that pullback, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at your dollar pairs. Well, I am looking on the lower time frame in the dollar to see if we're creating higher highs or lower lows, right?
Sure.
Then before I can make that assessment or analysis on the pairs. But it's often a little tricky because of that spatial awareness of when it's going to happen.
Yeah. Especially on those lower time frames, because you'll get those shorter spikes in either direction, right? So it can go all over the place. That's part of the reason that I don't go down to those lower time frames. I'm looking here because I have more data to go off of, right? 1 hour, 4 hour daily, with my entries coming on the one, just because there's more data there, right? And especially if it's at a key level in that 118, 127 zone, I'm licking my chops. I'm looking for that to happen. So, but that's why I stay off of those lower time frames, just because it's too much noise for me, right? And I'm looking for nice, clean moves and looking for them to flush themselves out in that fashion. So, yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. There's a ton of back and forth, but I also think that, right, that's where the value in the top-down analysis, like you said, that spatial awareness comes in. Because if you understand where things are from a higher time frame perspective, when you get down to that lower time frame, like if we come back to, let's say, that dollar yen, right? And you understand where you are from a higher time frame perspective, we're looking for a price to come to these levels, right? We're looking for a 4 hour D extension to get hit, 1 hour D extension to get hit, right? Now, when you come down to those lower time frames and you're looking at actually, and you're looking at this 15-minute, right? You know that we're anticipating, at least in a relatively shorter term, we're anticipating price to continue moving to the upside, right? So if that's the case, as we run our fibs and we're looking at this, right, got choppy there. So run that there, then here, then there, boom, right? So now what we're looking at here on the 15, yeah, you got another 80-20 scenario. You got price coming down. You may not get to that 382 here, right? And you're able to see this. You know you're looking for opportunities to get long. So on this 15, you may not get a low price here, right? So then if you go down to the 5, those waves are even smaller. Those waves are even smaller here, right? And again, this is the beauty of the Fibonacci sequence and how we trade it and why we do what we do. Because now as you come down, you can still see this, right? B boundary. Now, when you get back to this trend line, you also know in the higher time frame, you're also going to be pressing up against the cloud, right? You're also pressing up against this trend line, 382 on this 5 minute, right? You may not get a deep retracement here, but you know where you are from a higher time frame. So you're just looking for a low price, right? And if you're trading on these levels, you also have your support and resistance in, right? So you got support levels coming in here just above that 382. And then you got another support level here at the 50% level, right? So now I'm looking for, okay, what are my rules on the 5 minute time frame? Am I okay to take a trade at a 382 when it comes in line with a trend line, right? Or a level of support or the cloud, right? Do I have additional points of confirmation in this scenario, support levels, right? That will allow me to take a trade off this level because I know I'm looking for price to continue rising at least to this level, right? And coincidentally here, right, we could see price turn over at these support levels and push into this 118, 127 zone, which is in alignment with the 4-hour D extension, which is in alignment with the previous support level off of a weekly time frame, which is just shy of a 1-hour D extension, right? So now you're like, okay, lower time frame, this is what I'm looking for, right? And I could, if it's in my rules, I could take this off of if these support levels hold, I could look for a buy opportunity, right? Or, all right, this is a key level that I'm watching. Let me sit and wait till we get to that 118, 127 zone if we don't push down to that 382, right? So that spatial awareness is key. It's key. Understanding where you are from a higher time frame, and that can help you to mentally filter out a lot of the noise and just look at where price is. You see price going from a higher time frame perspective. Now here you're just looking sheerly on using your entry techniques and what your rules say for an entry, regardless of all the back and forth, and you're placing your stop out the way and allowing it to do its thing. So hopefully that helped. Not sure if it did, but
yeah. Thanks.
mm-hmm. Keep getting confused is looking at the lower time frames instead of paying attention. Yeah. So Carolyn, you want to make sure that in your rules you have set on what time frames you're trading and what time frames you're taking your entry on, right? And be consistent in that. If you're bouncing back and forth on what time frame you take entries on and what time frames you're trading, you're not going to have that consistent process, right? So you want to ensure that you're very detailed about those things, very specific, right? I'm trading off of a 1 hour. My entries come off a 1 hour time frame. When price gives me a shallow retracement and pushes into the 118 to 127 zone, or when price gives me a 618 retracement, I'm taking the trade at the 618, 786 levels. I'm placing my stop outside the A, and I'm allowing price to do what it's going to do, right? And for me, I've gotten to the point where I'm trying to just simplify it, right? Simplify the rules, but be very specific at the same time. When price gets to these levels, I know I have an edge. I'm pulling the trigger, right? Unless, and there I do have some caveats, right? In particular, like with yens, right? Unless there's a fundamental bias that says price is going to continue going, dollar yen, right? The yen crosses, we know that this could continue push higher. So on these, I've just sat to the side and watched. Right. The only one that I'm in right now is the CAD yen, and I took that last week. But I have my stop out of the way, and I'm just sitting allowing it to do what it's going to do. Okay. So having those details written in is very, very, very important when it comes to that trade plan.
Right. On your daily, you have it where you're waiting for a swing high to form.
On this dollar yen.
Yeah.
No, actually, on this dollar yen, I'm waiting for price to push into these higher levels. Right? Because we know the Bank of Japan, the Bank of Japan is kind of sitting tight and watching, right? This is a previous support level, right? And this is where that previous intervention happened last year. Boom. So this could serve as resistance, right? But in the article that we read yesterday, folks are saying that Bank of Japan, they're looking at this whole scenario differently and the yen weakness. So they're not as anxious to intervene yet. But if prices get to the higher 140s, closer to 150, right, which is these levels here, then they wouldn't necessarily hesitate to intervene. So I'm looking for price to push to this 145.084 level, potentially break that level and maybe get to 148.857. So I'm sitting tight waiting here to see what transpires, right? To see what the market gives. And right, you got a 4-hour D extension there in line with that, right? And so if then statements, if I get a strong break of the cloud, then I'll look for the entry, right? But right now, I'm just looking to watch this continue to ride to the upside until the market tells me something different. And that something different would be the cloud break or strong bearish candle on a trend line break, right? So that's what I'm waiting for. But I'm looking at 145 and higher before I have an entry opportunity, I believe, just based on what we've been reading on this dollar yen and even some of the other yen crosses.
I was just thinking of looking for a swing high to form on the daily. Then we know, okay, pull back.
Yeah, you could, right? that definitely could be the case, right? Definitely could be the case. I just, I guess to your point, we may not get that until some of these higher levels. Yeah. Carolyn, you got to pick what fits your lifestyle, right? And what fits your personality, right? Not everybody can scout. Everybody wants it because the perception of fast money and this and that. But if your personality can't handle multiple losses, and it doesn't fit for everybody. So,
Ooh, I'm telling you now, you're gonna have to buy you some extra monitors, some extra mouses, cause something gonna get hurt.
yeah, yeah,
We gotta have thick skin for them friends.
But Benny and I've been saying this for a while. We believe that in this trading experience, it's better to build the discipline of a swing trader and then transition into a scalper, as opposed to trying to scalp first and then transition back. Because if you look at the evolution of most of your highly successful traders and the ones that do it a lot, right, you'll see they've made transitions and they moved out of that necessarily scalping space into more of an intraday swing trading opportunity, and allowing the compounding effect to actually work in their favor. But the reason I say that it's important to build the discipline as a swing trader first is because you're able to truly instill the discipline of your trade plan, right? And you, as a scalper, you have to be extremely, extremely disciplined. And you have to have a set foundation of rules that you do not waver from, regardless of the losses that you will take, right? And so you have to really, really force and be set in your discipline. These are my rules. This is exactly what I'm going to follow, regardless of the situation, because I know I have an edge in the market. Over time, the edge will play out. And so those losses, that string of 3, 4, 5, 6 losses that I may take, I'll be able to make up for them, but I have to stay firm in my plan and I will not change that, right? And you're able to develop that as a swing trader, and it's an easier transition into a scalper, right? As opposed to trying to scalp first, and now you're pulling your hair out and you're stressed and you're bouncing back and forth and you're uncertain, and now you're questioning yourself because that discipline isn't solidified, and then walking your way back to then walk your way back the other way, right? So my challenge for you is to really solidify your rules, really solidify the discipline of a swing trader, and that will allow you to compound things in a really, really great way as a scalper once you solidify that discipline on the other side, right? I think it's extremely important that happens. Extremely important. Funny,
I think it's important. I think it's important. Like if we learn this now, like it's harder to create the discipline if you don't make the time for the discipline,
100%.
And you keep battling those inner demons of like, I can't get.
That's facts. That's facts, right?
And yeah,
you have to address those things, right? And if you're not able to address them as a scalper, how are you going to address them as if you're not able to address them as a swing trader, how are you going to address them as a scalper, right? The swing trading gives you more time, right? Gives you more time, more space, right? To go through those thoughts and feel those feelings and ask those questions, to then be able to find the answers to the questions, to then be able to implement the answers that you found, as opposed to scalping on a 5-minute chart. That time you don't necessarily have if you don't have the discipline ahead of time, right? And if you haven't addressed those things, because you got to make 1 minute, 5-minute decisions, right? As opposed to an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours a day, right? So I agree with you, Donette. If you don't make the time for the discipline, you're not gonna develop the discipline, right? So I think it's extremely important to look at it from that perspective. I really do. And we got some things in the works, man, that we think you guys will like, and it's going down that line of ultimately the force discipline, right? So that we can really, really push you guys to the next level. So stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. But yeah. So hopefully that was a helpful conversation. I appreciate the feedback there too. We got a lot in the works, Carolyn. We got a lot in the works. I'm not going to give you details just yet, but we are working on some updates to the training. Yes, but there's a lot more in store. A lot more in store. So that's just one piece of the puzzle that's coming. Yeah. So let's this NZD dollar. I only got a few minutes left, so we'll pop through a couple more. This NZD dollar, right? The move was down coming out of Saturday, right? And we got that. Boom. Okay. I got sub-fibs running all over the place. But we broke. This was a daily resistance level. We pushed above it, and then we pushed back below. Boom. Right? With that dollar strength. So now we're getting this pullback. So look for a retest and then a continuation. Right? Retest and a continuation. So as we move down through the time frames to the 4, right? This was the look here on the move down. Just shy of a 618 retracement. Boom. Down. Broke that level. Now we'll look for a retest. We got previous support there. So look for a retest and a continuation short here. Right? Making our way to these lower levels. Yeah, we have a larger fib running here, but we could end up taking this A out with the dollar strength as the Fed continues to increase interest rates. Right? So we're looking short on this this NZD dollar. Right? Looking for a retest and continuation down. Coming down to the 1. Zoom back, clean some of this out. All right, there's our fib on the 1. This was the 80-20. Boom, beautiful play, 50% retracement, down. So looking for a retest, continuation short. Okay. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Anybody in this to the downside take that move out of the weekend? No. Okay. Cool deal. So that's where we are there. All right. So that's the NZD dollar. Let's take a look at this this euro dollar and pound dollar, and then we'll wrap it up. So on this pound dollar, we were looking for, right? We pushed into that 618 retracement level, right? This is our, we haven't looked at this fib much, but this is our capital fib on the daily, right? Long move there, long retracement here. Okay. So we pushed up into this 618 retracement level, shallow retracement, didn't get to the 382. We're saying, all right, we might get to these higher levels if the dollar continues bearish, right? So 618 retracement, 80-20 scenario, we broke above this key weekly level, but what happened, and we'll, on the lower time frames, we broke this down, we broke back below this level in a strong bearish way, right? We broke back below that level. The level did not hold as support. That is key for us to pay attention to. So as we come down to the 4, right, we were looking at this level yesterday and looking at, all right, does this level hold and do we get a bounce? or do we get a break in a retest? We got the break, good people. And now we're coming back to retest, right? We could push a little bit higher, right? Coming back to this daily, we could push to around this level here, right? 126,965. I'm going to mark this in purple. And we'll bring that down. All right. We could push to that level, but ultimately, break of the level, retest, and then looking for a continuation short, right? Because we got dollar strength now. Right? We got dollar strength now. Right? You see that support level there. All right? Broke out of that, come back, retest that, and continue short. Right? But breaking that key level, breaking this weekly level is important. That was important, right? So now we're moving. Okay, so we got the 80-20 scenario. You also got the 80-20 scenario here on the 4. On the daily, on the 4 hour, right? We didn't get to the D extension. That level didn't hold, right? So we didn't get the bounce back to the upside. So we're looking short here. 80-20 on the 4. Unless the dollar completely reverses, changes direction, and this thing flies to the upside, right? But based on the movement on the DXY, that may not happen, right? Unless we see something drastic change in the Fed's tone, right? So looking for a retest of this level and then a continuation short. So now come down to the 1, and this is what this looks like here. Okay, so we got 80-20 scenario on the 1 hour as well, right? Daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, 80-20 scenarios. We pushed into that 118, 127 zone. Also on the daily, the capital fib 618 retracement, right? And you clearly see the break. And in that break, you also got a strong break of the cloud too, right? Strong break of the cloud. So now we're looking for not only a retest of this level in that previous support zone, but also a retest of the cloud. Boom. It gives us some confluence there. So now we're looking for this pullback to happen. And we can run a sub fib off the high to see where it tracks. But now we're looking for this high price and continue to the downside. All right.
Yeah, the sub fib puts you right there. The sub fib puts you right by the 61.8.
Right in line, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oops. Boom. All right. So now we're looking at, all right, if you're not already in this short, give me a high price. 618 retracement in line with previous support. The retest scenario. Place my stop outside the A, which is above that last high. And we're out. All right. We got the things that we're looking for, the additional confirmation points, the break below this key level. Now we're looking for a pullback. We got a fib running to the downside. We got our sweet spot marked out. Boom. Now we wait. We know what we need. I'm not in this trade just yet, right? But I'm looking for an entry opportunity, and that's going to be it, right? That's going to be my entry opportunity. Retest of the cloud, 618 retracement level, and I'm looking short. I'm looking short. All right. Boom. Only reason I'm not in these right now is because this week has been crazy for me. And over the weekend, I didn't get to do a lot, right? In the last week, didn't get to do a lot. So I kept my hands off the charts because I wasn't prepared, right? So now I'm waiting on pullbacks, and then we'll take the entry on it, right? So that's where you are on the pound dollar. Questions here?
Hey, Ryan, I got a 4-hour resistant area at 126842.
6842.
Yeah.
Yep.
It still play out in the same. Okay.
Yep. It's just below where I had that line before, right? And that came off the daily,
Okay.
so that's right in line. Yep.
Better.
Yep. On the where price broke out of that consolidation there. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Right. So that's what it is, man. Right. Retest, pull back, and we're looking to get short there. Okay. So that's the pound dollar. Look at this euro dollar. So here's the deal. This one I did enter. But look, weekly time frame, we got an 80-20 scenario. Shallow retracement. We just been ranging. Yeah, we're long on the euro, but we also got dollar strength, so we're long on $1.02 currently, right? Pushed into the 118, 127 zone, strong move to the downside. Then we had a strong move back up, right? But what we did is we came back and retested these levels, right? Came back and retested those levels, and we're in a form of consolidation right now from a higher time frame perspective, right? Top of the range, this is the bottom of the range, right? So push down off the top, pull back. Now we could be in for a continuation short. We'll see, right? If the DXY continues to run up, right, after that retest, we could be in for that move down. Okay. So now coming down to your daily, right? And this is that full view of the range. It's been bouncing, right? It's been bouncing. We'll have to see a break of this support level 108,389 to get some additional confirmation, right? From a daily time frame perspective. But it could be headed down. Okay. Coming to the 4. All right. Similar view from the daily. A lot of bouncing around. But on this 4, what you start to see is the makings of a crown pattern. And if this right tip doesn't get taken out, boom. Price is pulling back now to retest this level. But boom. Right? So in the consolidation, in the bouncing back and forth, this is what we start to see. So now, do we get price to turn back over and break below these levels? Okay. This should be here. That support like that. And that should be down there at that support like that. Right. So now as we come down to the 1, we had an 80-20 here. Boom. Push to a 50% retracement level. Hit TP1. Then we got a pullback. Find the right tip. That's the right tip. Now we're getting a pullback here. Right? So this one I'm also looking for another move to the downside. We're pulling back now. That retracement's happening. So we'll watch to see if it doesn't take out this high on this crown, right? We'll look for price to turn over and make it to the D extension right here at 107,962. So we got a 786 retracement off of this harmonic fib here. Right? So that's what we're looking at. This is our pullback here. And then we'll see. We'll see, right? If we get price to turn over and press back down to the downside. Right? So from a higher time frame, from a weekly time frame perspective, I'm short. 80-20 on the weekly. I'm short, right? Stop placed above the high. And as this moves, I'll then be able to gauge and look to see what's happening. And once price starts moving in my favor, right, trading small, 10 cents, I'll be able to add to the trade, right? I'll be able to add to the trade. So as I get new fibs, new pullbacks, I can add to it, compound that over time, right? That's a long move on the weekly time frame, good people. Even back down to that support level, if price moves down, that's 400 pips just to that weekly level. If we get to the 382, that's 600. We're going to have smaller waves as we move to the downside in that, right? So it'll be interesting to see this interest rate battle and see how it plays out. But again, with that break of that key level on the DXY, right? Dollar pushing to the upside. I'm going to favor the dollar here. Okay. So that entry on this pair was based off a weekly time frame. So now if we look, if we come to the cloud, broke back to the downside of the cloud, we're coming back to retest it now. The cloud is still bearish, right? So we'll see if we get price to turn over and start making its way back down. Right? But this has just been a consolidative move. You see it's bounced back and forth on the cloud, right? We got the break below. We're coming back into it now. We'll see if we stay below and if this crown pattern plays out. All right? That's the math, Carolyn. That's the math. All right? It's a beautiful thing when you allow those things to compound, right? Beautiful thing. Yeah, most people do. So that's the euro dollar. Questions on any of the pairs that we covered this morning? Anything that we talked about this morning? Any questions? No? All right. Cool deal, good people. Go ahead.
That said, it looks good. The only thing that's the investing.com. That's my as a guide. It doesn't line up with
strong buys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, definitely understood, right? Definitely understood. And when you look at it, price has been moving to the upside, and we're just consolidating now, right? Price has been moving to the upside. 4 hour overall, right? Price been moving to the upside. Now we're in this consolidated phase. And what happens next? Even on the weekly, right? Price been moving to the upside. So that makes sense. Okay. I'm looking at this, right, from a technical perspective, the fundamentals that have just come out, right? And we'll see if, just like I looked at it before, right? We'll see if my thoughts are right or wrong, right? But we'll see if these start to change, right? We'll see if these start to change. Yeah. Right.
I know it's so hard to not get in your way. You kind of want to tell the market what to do.
Say that again.
I said it's so hard to not. I said it's hard to tell yourself that you're not the person that's running the market.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is.
Make it what it should be.
It is. It absolutely is difficult. Absolutely. Right. That ego comes into play, us having control, all that mental stuff comes into play. Right. And to that point, it falls back on what we talked about earlier, right? Being disciplined in the rules. So yeah. So that's where we are. All right, good people. Have an awesome Thursday, right? Again, we won't have a session tonight, but we'll be back at it Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Inner Circle Weekly Ritual. have an awesome day, good people, right? Have an awesome day. Be safe. Find your opportunity, right? To do one thing that moves you toward your desire today. One thing. One thing. We'll talk. Peace.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.